Alright, what's going on everybody, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. If you guys are new to the channel, do me a favor and hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, make sure you're not missing any of the awesome content that we have coming out. With this video, we are going to be jumping into Venom, issue number 8. What I will say is arguably the best issue so far. We have seen multiple writers take on this storyline. Ram V and Al Ewing together have been writing the Venom line, with Ram V really focusing on Venom and Dylan Brock. Ewing, on the other hand, he has been handling Eddie Brock himself. We all know what happened with the King in Black. The one known as Null had been defeated. Eddie Brock now in charge of the entire symbiote mind. Having control of this hive mind, he accidentally brings his consciousness into the time stream. With his physical body being destroyed, he finds himself all the way at the very end of time. That brings him to a garden, meeting many other of the King in Blacks throughout the entirety of the time stream. There is one that seems to be plotting and ploying. That one is Meridius. Eddie Brock is still trying to grab hold of everything that is going on. His biggest focus and his main concern is getting back to his son. But as you can tell from the front cover, he is gonna have to deal with Kang the Conqueror way before he can ever get back to his timeline. If you want to get caught up on everything going on with this series, be sure to check out the link in my description as well as the top of this video. It is gonna get you completely caught up on everything that has been going on so far. Be sure to buy the comics, support the industry, and with that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright gang, so we are picking up with Eddie Brock and he is in the garden. At the very end of time, he doesn't know how long he has actually been here. Because time in the garden, it is very odd, it is very strange. Not sure if it's been a day, a week, or a month. He finds himself more or less in isolation. The other King in Blacks, they're not wanting anything to do with him. All of them are keeping their distance. Meridius has not been seen. Bedlam has not been seen. One thing he does know is that this is a prison. There is nowhere to go. There is no escape. Everyone is just waiting on Meridius to return. And so with all this isolation, he finds himself with nothing more than time to think. You know, back in my days in the army, I had a sergeant major, and he used to tell us that when you would sit in those guard towers, you would become a philosopher. That is because you're sitting up there 8 hours, more or less by yourself. You may have one other individual up there with you to discuss and debate and talk about all of this stuff, life, love, everything. That's a little bit of what Eddie Brock is experiencing. He is being able to think about every single flaw that he has made, every single mistake that he has ever done. Now he finds himself in this place. He ran off to play hero, to be a god, and in doing so, not only did he abandon Venom, but he also abandoned his own son. As he contemplates all of this information, the rage starts to boil out. He tries to stop these intrusive thoughts, to stop all of this thinking, wanting nothing more than to just get out of this place. We see Eddie Brock fall into this primordial ooze. And in doing so, his mind jumps across the time stream, and he lands in what is referred to as a war symbiote. A symbiote referring to itself as Warstar, being activated and seemingly under the control of what is referred to as the Conqueror. Eddie Brock falling even deeper into things that he simply does not understand. He has no idea where he is, he has no idea when he is. But this symbiote, Warstar, starts to let him know exactly where this is. This is Earth. The year 60,134, the 602nd century, and this is the flagship of the Conqueror. The symbiote trying to get some kind of data, trying to figure out what their mission is gonna be, referring to Eddie as a pilot mind. 60,000 years. At this point, symbiotes have become more or less a part of war, being harnessed by the most powerful, by the most ruthless. Eddie Brock just barely touching his toes on the true potential of the symbiote mind. And so with him getting thrown into the 602nd century, things have quite drastically changed as he feels the time stream tugging on him, trying to pull him back to the end of all time. He knows he needs to get his mind off of this to keep him centered here and now. That won't be hard because this is when we see Kang the Conqueror's forces. Dozens and dozens of his troops, they come in recognizing that Eddie Brock is an unauthorized user. This is where Eddie Brock just starts wreaking havoc, laying waste to everybody in the room. Warstar is letting him know that this is against protocol. Going against the Conqueror's forces is a big no-no. Eddie Brock is in control though, asking Warstar if this is going to be a problem. Warstar does the calculations, and this is no problem for them at all. As they make their way through all of these forces, going down the hallway, this is where they run into a Type 4 Warstar. You could call this thing overkill, but Eddie says that it's just the right amount of kill. This thing's weapons have freaking weapons. But with this mind link to the Warstar, Eddie is able to know everything that this symbiote knows, which means he knows that that glass has a force field. Using a drone, they are able to disrupt this field just for 1 second. In that time frame, we see the red symbiote go flying out into space, and the blast doors close behind it. Recognizing that thing must have been protecting something, Eddie Brock goes inside, and what he finds is the one, the only, Kang the Conqueror. For Eddie Brock, this isn't a surprise. Being linked to the mind of this symbiote, he already knew what to expect. Kang the Conqueror, he is also not surprised. Standing there calm, collected, controlled, telling Eddie Brock to come in. Kang the Conqueror has been expecting him. Though he does find it curious, the war-class symbiote is usually a stickler for protocols. But when it comes to Eddie Brock, he always has had a very unique way with symbiotes. So while your average individual couldn't hijack a war-class individual like Warstar, Eddie Brock is no regular everyday Joe. Eddie's a little confused on how Kang the Conqueror knows that it is Eddie Brock. For Kang the Conqueror though, he has known Eddie for a very long time. 10,000 years ago, the two of them stood on a bridge much like the one that they are currently on, and Kang had showed him a hard light hologram. It was the entire universe. Every single galaxy the size of a single grain of sand. And he told him 10,000 years ago that if he plays Kang's game on his board with his rules, everything could belong to Eddie. And of course, Eddie Brock, knowing himself currently, he would tell Kang the Conqueror to go shove it. But when they had their meeting, he was much more in a listening type of mood. In fact, letting Eddie know that the two of them, they made a good team, or they will make a good team. This is Kang's past and Eddie's future. For Eddie, this is the first time that they ever meet. And while Kang's past has them working together, Eddie Brock can only assume that Kang the Conqueror is up to no good, knowing him mostly by reputation for fighting against the Avengers. We see the two of them go toe-to-toe. Immediately, Warstar is letting Eddie know that this is highly against protocol, going against and attacking the Conqueror himself. This is where Eddie Brock, he really does play a wonderful hand, letting Warstar know that they are just doing a system diagnostic. They are testing and seeing Kang the Conqueror's defenses. Recognizing this as more or less a training simulation, Warstar is 100% on board, with Eddie unleashing bullets, flames, a little bit of everything he has in his arsenal. Kang the Conqueror is wielding a time sword, so Eddie is throwing a lot of explosions, a lot of bullets, a lot of flame, but this is doing nothing to Kang. an individual who can freeze time itself. He is letting Eddie know that he has already lost this fight. Kang the Conqueror, though, is letting Eddie know that I'm not your enemy. We don't have to fight. Eddie thinking maybe he should start listening because he is quickly losing this fight. But recognizing that this is Kang's game. This is his board. So they're gonna play by his rules. Taking the shape inside of Eddie's mind, we see Warstar give him a time sword of his own. Kang the Conqueror telling him that he is almost proud. This is the first lesson he ever teaches Eddie. When your enemy has the superior weapon, recognize this and make that weapon your own. To slit the throat of your foe with their very own blade. That is the sweetest pleasure of all. But Kang, being tired of this game, he cuts off the arm of Eddie Brock. Though it does reform, he no longer is wielding the time sword. Because what he had copied from him, it wasn't actually a weapon. Kang had used the time sword to pin his temporal form to this moment. And while this is only temporary, we see Warstar more or less disappear and Eddie Brock take the form that he has at the end of all time in the garden that Meridius has put him into. The truth is, Kang the Conqueror knows everything that is going on with Eddie. That is because Eddie has told him all of this information. In Eddie's future, he is able to move through the time stream very fluidly, telling Eddie that if he would like to start his training on doing that, Kang the Conqueror is more than willing to begin his training, knowing that he needs to get back to his son, that he needs to get back to Dylan. Eddie is ready to do this. He is ready to learn from Kang the Conqueror. Kang excusing himself into another room. We see him go into a hidden spot on this ship, having a discussion with Meridius. Kang the Conqueror and Meridius appearing to be working together. He lets Meridius know that Eddie is suspicious, he's confused, and he is violent. He is suspicious about Kang the Conqueror's motives, but he has yet to guess that he is baiting someone else's trap. Kang the Conqueror asking the questions. Who else could predict that he would even be here at this utterly random point in time? Who could possibly plan for that? Who other than Meridius? And that will be the end of this issue. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. This has been a lot of fun, hands down my favorite issue so far, and that is saying a lot because I freaking love Ram V and all of his writing. But Al Ewing has come in here and he has knocked this out of the freaking park. From the artwork to the dialogue, this is beautifully put together. And we are seeing more and more that Meridius, he seems to be behind everything. My question is, could Meridius quite possibly, just maybe, be Dylan? Because we're jumping all over the time stream at this point. We're going all the way to the end of time. We're going to the year 60,000. The possibility that Meridius could very well be Dylan himself. It doesn't sound out of the realm of possibility, especially everything going on with Dylan. There is something unique about him. We haven't really quite figured it out, but there is something very different about Dylan than everybody else. And we really don't know what Meridius's endgame is. By all appearances, it is something devious, but that could be just throwing us off. That could be a misdirect, and Meridius could very easily be the son of Eddie Brock, because if he wanted to kill Eddie, he could just do it. But there is something bigger at play here, something that we're not seeing going on. Meridius working in the shadows throughout the entirety of the time stream. They are really leaving us with so many questions. You can only imagine how many questions Eddie Brock has, being thrown all across time, finding himself face to face with Kang the Conqueror. The only thing that he is truly focused on is getting back to his son. So no matter how crazy things get, no matter what time era he ends up in, he has one goal, and nothing is going to stop him from achieving this goal. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your theories. If you would like to support the channel, you can always do so by hitting the Super Thanks button. This button will let you donate directly to the channel, and every little bit helps us out. Now, if you can't do that, do me a favor, hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, make sure you're not missing any of the awesome content that we have coming out, and until the next breakdown.